to The Insomniac Show with Nicolette and Brian. We'll get real deep with you, educating, inspiring, and solving problems with some of the most inspirational humans on the planet. Buckle up and come on the journey.
I'm excited. All right, guys, I'm Nicolette, and today Brian and I are here with Alex Montagu. He is a lawyer and a meditation coach, which is an interesting combination. So we are excited to learn a little bit more about that and more about tranquillawyer.com, which is the organization he's working on. And we are just happy to have you here with us today, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, so how does a lawyer become a meditation coach? I'm assuming that happened in that order.
Yes, it happened in that order.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, it would actually seem really odd if it was the exact opposite order,
right?
Meditation coach becoming a lawyer, that would definitely seem strange.
Well, I'm going to be very honest with you. And in my case, I came to meditation after a period of great suffering in my life and great difficulty, where I saw no way out. And it really is not an exaggeration when I say that it was life-saving for me. And so I've continued with the practice, and I've, become a meditation teacher so that I could bring the benefits of it to others. Now, I created the website, the Tranquil Lawyer, and some people ask me, does that mean that it's just for lawyers? No, of course not. The Tranquil Lawyer is supposed to be me, and these practices, mindfulness and meditation, benefit everybody. And by the way, it's a non-commercial endeavor for me. So my work is law. I'm a practicing lawyer. I've been practicing for almost 30 years, not almost. I started my practice in 1991. And, so I'm still a practicing lawyer. I do commercial law, I do intellectual property law, and so that's what I do. But this is, it wouldn't be fair to it to say that this is a side project. This is everything for me now. This is the path of my life, and I think that it's for everyone, anyone that cares to look at a different way of living that maybe takes them out of their conditioned patterns that create a lot of stress and anxiety and uncertainty and fear, might find these practices very helpful.
So how do you go from lawyer to meditation coach, right? You mentioned it saved your life. What was the event that brought you there?
I think it was a confluence of events that just created a very difficult passageway in life for me. About 8-9 years ago, I'm a single dad, and it was a child's illness. It was issues with my family, personal issues that were creating difficulties that I couldn't seem to see a way out of, and what meditation did for me is to realize that it's actually not these external circumstances that are the cause of the stress, anxiety, suffering, whatever you want to call it, but it's actually my mind. See, until that point, I had no familiarity with my own mind. And that's what these practices allow you to do. You look inside your own mind. You look at your thoughts. You see, your thoughts come so quickly. We have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and they bombard you. They come so quickly. And what this process does, it slows it down so that you can actually see them, and you can see them for what they are. And things are never as bad as your mind sometimes imagines them to be. But when you're in that thicket, it's very hard to say that.
Well, do you think it's the quiet time, right, of meditation that really gives you that time to stop and think?
Definitely the peace if you do meditation in a peaceful area, I definitely recommend that. I mean, you could do the meditation anywhere. A practiced meditator, then it's much easier to do it in a quiet area. And the peace and quiet allows you to see your thoughts as they unfold second by second. They actually go much faster than second by second. In 1 second, you can have many thoughts. But you don't, most of the time, if you are untrained, mind is not trained, you're unaware of what these thoughts are. These thoughts are your conditioned mind, conditioned from childhood along the lines of how you grew up. And they create your personality. And so, you say, oh, this is a very jealous person. This is a very angry person. This is not that is just the conditioned mind that is untrained. And so if you want to work with those things, with jealousy, with anger, with anxiety, then the place to start is your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you start with peace and quiet. Sorry about that. But you start by sitting quietly, because no one can do this work for you. You've got to do it for yourself. You've got to sit quietly. And it's a very simple practice. You sit quietly with a straight back and you meditate and you start to see what's going on in your mind.
Well, I guess what I'm curious about is law is maybe known as a very stressful, profession to begin with, right? And I understand you're not, and Brian and I were chatting about this earlier, right, Brian? I'm sure criminal law holds a little bit more stress when you're looking at, you mentioned like Brian, holding someone else's life in your hands or, something like that. There are certain stressors.
Right, like a real estate lawyer is not going to have probably the same stress, from their job, at least we should say, not life events,
right,
but from their job as, for instance, a criminal lawyer or something like that.
That it's true that there are some circumstances that appear to cause more stress, but actually the stress is caused by your mind. Okay, so it is caused in your mind and by your mind. And so it is possible for a real estate lawyer to experience more stress than a criminal lawyer. It's definitely possible. Now, I understand that the circumstances of a criminal practice may appear to cause more stress. But what I say that the reason that the legal profession has become so stressful is that we are always in our minds and we don't have any relief from living with worry in the future or regretting the past and fearing mistakes. You see, and working all the time. The legal profession didn't used to be as stressful before the 80s. This has really started in the 80s because people had a more balanced lifestyle. People had a work-life balance. They weren't working all the time with lack of sleep. And so they were more able to deal with the anxiety and the stresses that now appear so endemic to our profession. And if you look, actually, the more lonely the type of work and the more cerebral it is, the more stressful it is. So I think, let's say you work outside with your hands, that is less stressful somehow than if you've got this high-powered, high-pressure job that you're working inside. And that's because stress is caused in the mind. And anxiety is caused in the mind. And the mind, you see, when I talk about the mind, I'm talking about your ego that creates these thoughts and is always worrying about the future or regretting the past. Mm-hmm. And so you see, this ego of ours, yours, mine, we, without being aware, without having the training of meditation that shines the light of awareness, this ego basically fluctuates between two different states. Mm. And these two states are the sources of our anxiety. The one state is a state of lack and want. insufficiency. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. You look outside, you look at someone else, they seem to be better. They have more money, they have more this, more that, they have a better body, right? Mm-hmm. So this ego is in a state of insufficiency. And then the other state is fear when things go wrong. When I lose my job, or, in the case of lawyers, for example, if the client is unhappy with me, or, and law has a lot of things like that. We have personal liability, for example. So we fear malpractice lawsuits. If you're a young associate, you fear that you might not make partner, you might lose your job. All of these things are fear, you see. So we fluctuate between these two states without having any awareness of what is going on in your mind, and not realizing, hang on a minute, none of it is real. It's actually in my mind. I did this. It seems so real. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do with this training is to turn it inside and look at your mind, and thereby really release that stress and that anxiety, which is what happened with me. I got all these law degrees. Okay. So, I went to Princeton, I went to Harvard, I went to Cambridge, I got all these law degrees. And where did I end up? I ended up in a very bad place. Mm-hmm. 9 years ago, where those degrees were of no use to me at all. You follow? They did not help me, because that's where I was. I was either in a state of lack, inadequacy with whatever, mm-hmm. or a state of fear. Mm-hmm. And so, not surprisingly, that led, and I think that happens to a lot of people, and especially to a lot of lawyers. A lot of people I know who are practicing law at some point get to this breaking point because their mind isn't able to deal with whatever it is.
So what got you to meditation, right? So you got to this breaking point, and then what brought you to meditation? Did someone recommend it? Did you find it? Did you do research?
I read a book, actually. I just came across a book that, and you're going to ask me what was the name of the book, and I don't even remember the name of the book. But in the book, they talked about it, and I thought, oh, this sounds very intriguing. And so at the time I lived in New York, and there was a meditation center, the Shambhala Center. So I decided to look into that, and I went, and they had a weekend class, and I took the weekend class, and I never looked back. I just thought, oh my God, this is it. This is for me. I'm going to keep doing this. Now, I've never done this. I had never sat by myself and looked in my mind to see what was happening. I had never done that. Right. I'd always looked outside, which is, of course, where this state of lack, Buddhism, where this originates, has these different states that they call them the different realms. So, one of them is the realm of the jealous gods, which is the realm of envy, where you look out and you're envy, you see someone else and they have maybe a nice car, and you think, oh my God, mm-hmm. I wish I had that, right. or anger, which is the realm of hell. And so this meditation really addresses those things at the root, which is in your mind.
Right. Do you think people just, and it's sort of back to my first question, because I believe in meditation, not probably as deep as you do, but, it's like I stop in the morning before I start, I focus on the things, I think about the things I want to focus on, right? For day, life, whatever. And then, so I keep those in my vision, right? The things that are important, not the other stuff that gets in the way. So do you think just people don't stop because there's so much going on? You mentioned it was different in the 80s, right? But what happened in the 90s that really made it different? Was it the advent of all the technology and the constant bombardment of information coming in? So where did people stop stopping, I guess, to relax and focus?
Well, I think that this problem has been with us, with humanity, since the dawn of the civilization. So stress and anxiety, because our minds, it's the nature of our minds to be that way. Now, I do think that the technology has made it worse, has made it more difficult, because we are spending so much time alone, and we have lost the tools that maybe at some point in the past various people pointed to. And, I am not a religious person, but in all religions, you have a kernel of truth and some tools to combat this. So, for example, the concept of generosity. Okay, so the concept of generosity and compassion, which are the twin pillars of Christianity and Buddhism, right? These are actually very helpful. In fact, there was a Harvard Medical School study that showed that the happiest people were Buddhist monks meditating on compassion. You see, in Buddhism, for example, you have a form of meditation, it's called compassion meditation. So you meditate on compassion, which is that you want the best for everyone. Not just for you, but for everyone around you. You want the best, and you train your mind to want that. And what does that do? That does, it takes your mind out of these states of lack and want, where you envy other people. It takes your mind out of the hell realm of anger and violence. You see, so we used to have those at various points in history. People pointed to them. But today, we have completely, as a society and a culture, what are we doing? We are lost in technology. We are lost in, we glorify money making. When was the last time that we actually, read a great work of literature, that the news talked about a great work of literature? The English Romantic poets were onto this. They came in at the end of the Enlightenment, which, was also a very egoic time where we, prioritized rationality. And, poets like Wordsworth and Coleridge and Byron, they pointed to this, that, there's a part of you. They talked about it. Right. Almost their poetry is almost like meditation. Or if you look at Sufi poetry, for example, in the 14th century. So there were guideposts, right? But today we're not looking at any of those things.
So is it something that just... Oh, sorry, Nicolette.
So we are just lost. We wake up in the morning and what do? We look at our phones, and our mind starts worrying about going down the path of, oh, I'm not good enough. What do I have to worry about?
Right. So then my question then, Alex, is then how has this changed your life? How have you changed by incorporating this practice into your life? And, how, well, first question, yes. How have you changed? How has it changed your life?
Hugely. So I would wake up in the morning and I would either be feeling stressed, thinking about all the things that I have to do, or feeling somehow inadequate. And I couldn't point my finger on it, like something isn't quite right. And every morning was like that. And I would automatically jump up and, have some coffee and get on with my day. And my day fluctuated between those things. And, I used to think, oh, it's going to make me happy to go out for a drink, or it's going to make me happy to go on vacation, or these types of things. And then I would go on vacation and then, I don't know, the flight would be canceled or be late and I'd be all angry. I'd be upset, like, oh, and I would have this whole story in my mind. Oh my God, why does this happen to me? I'm never going on this airline again, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not like that anymore because now I know, right? Now it's not important for me to go on vacation. It doesn't matter for me to go on vacation. I don't have to go on vacation. That isn't important. I don't drink. Or I might have a glass of wine, but if I don't have a glass of wine, it doesn't matter. I'm now aligned with reality, with what is, and I'm far, far better at accepting reality as it unfolds rather than fighting it.
Right.
In my mind. Being anxious
So do you think that's what causes most of the anxiety for people? They have this preconceived notion of what things should be, right? But also, too, they keep themselves busy with things that are not really important, that don't make a difference, right?
They have no awareness of what their mind is doing. And so the mind does its own thing and the Buddha said this is the cause of your suffering. And it's this desire. So, when a desire becomes an expectation, then it starts to cause you a lot of stress and anxiety. Okay? So let's say, I'll point that out with a simple example. Let's say that you have a vague desire to have a lot of power. You want to be you want to be the Queen of England. Right?
I do. How did you know?
Right. Okay. You do. But if you are not the Queen of England, it's not going to be the end of the world. Okay, for you can live. Now, on the other hand, let's say that you've applied for a job that you really want, right? That's a desire.
Right.
If you don't get that job, you're going to be upset. You're going to be, your mind is going to create a whole story. It's not going to be like, okay, well, I didn't become the Queen of England. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between desire and attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to become aware of your attachments. It's these attachments that your mind creates. And it becomes part of your identity. And it's not, you know what I mean? But your mind isn't like that. It creates a story. So you want to train your mind to see that and to react the same way and say, okay, I didn't get the job. All right, I didn't become the Queen of England. Move on, which is acceptance.
Yeah. So then, you know what? I would love.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's okay. I would love for you to just leave us with, as we're approaching wrap up, can you leave us with some advice? What would you tell those folks right now? What is something that they can do right now?
I think that the best thing to do is to start looking at your own mind. Stop, slow down, okay? So meditation is a great practice that allows you to do that, okay? So I would say just go to a meditation class or even just do one on YouTube. I mean, even I'm offering some free meditation classes on my website, tranquillawyer.com, a 15-minute free meditation class, but you don't need, do you know what I mean? Just something, this is work that you have to do yourself. No one can do this work for you. You know what I mean? No one can tell you. I tell you this today, tonight you're going to go off, you're not going to remember any of this. You want to sit and look at your own mind and train your own mind to slow down and accept, first of all, see reality clearly, which is what mindfulness is, by the way. Mindfulness is quality that sees reality as it is, rather than through these fears and distortions of the mind. The mind creates a lot of things that are not real. It's like the Dalai Lama gives the example of a walking down in a dark night and suddenly seeing something and being terrified and thinking it's a snake and it's going to bite you, and then you don't realize that it's just actually a coil. Mm-hmm. It's not real. And so that's what our minds do. So that's what the training of the mind is, and it makes an enormous difference.
Right.
Sorry. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, we could do that with meditation, right? We quiet our minds and we go, okay. So, but what do you tell? Like, there are some people, like, we all have these weird thoughts, right? And for me, I sometimes, like I said, I meditate in the mornings, but sometimes, like later in the day, you can't really. I pretty much just tell my mind when it's overworking and overthinking things. I'm like, all right, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Like, pretty much shut up, and I'm in charge here, and I'm going to, look at this through more neutral eyes, right? For some of the stuff that's going on.
But there's what you just said, perhaps you don't realize it, but there's something enormous there, which is this awareness. Suddenly you realize, oh, I am not these thoughts. Oh, you look at the thoughts and you say, shut up. I mean, that's huge. That is actually the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy, by the way, which is you question the veracity of these thoughts. Shut up.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. That is very good. As soon as your mind takes off,
Right.
stop and
Stop
say, stop it.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. And by the way, meditation actually is a training that allows you to do that. You see, but most of us, we can't do that because, when we're gripped. Now imagine when you suddenly are triggered, right? When you're gripped by something that makes you so angry, right? Somebody does something that pushes your buttons and gets you so angry. It's very difficult to say at that moment to your own mind, shut up. No, you want to attack the other person, right? So the practice is, no. You look at your own mind and you laugh at it and say, shut up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Alex, where can we find more about you?
So I have a website called Tranquil Lawyer, just as it sounds, tranquillawyer.com, and there are lots of there's lots of information like this on there. You asked me what can people do. I really think that something else that people can do that we've really lost is go back and read works of literature. It's all there, things that, Shakespeare. Shakespeare, this is something that we look at it and we say, something maybe you studied many years ago in class. But, there's that character of Lady Macbeth. There's a reason that she goes mad after her mind breaks down because her mind isn't able to deal with this huge pain that she's inflicted on another human being. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Or the Greeks were amazing at this. They were onto this. Sophocles, Oedipus. I wrote a novel actually called Sphinx that took its title from the Oedipus Rex. So I think that when I talk about this, sometimes people think, oh my God, this is so boring, it's old fashioned, but it's not. These people, we can learn a lot from these people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because, basically it's human plight, right? The same things have happened for, thousands and thousands of years, but, yeah.
All this technology aside, we still have the same mind.
Exactly.
That's right.
We have the same mind. And it is the mind, by the way, that we forget. This mind is in the middle of the food chain. Mm-hmm. In the evolutionary, this mind is prey as much as predator. Now, we are now at the top of the food chain, right? Because there's no animal that can beat us. But we don't have the lion's mind. The lion has the mind at the top of the food chain. We don't. We are still fear with that fear of being in the middle of the food chain is still driving us. But we have no awareness of it because we're always looking up. So we need to develop that awareness. We need to see that mind and thereby calm it. That's right.
Well, thank you, Alex. Thank you for leaving us with that. You certainly got us off our butts today. So everybody start listening and go read a book, do some meditation, and
check out Alex's website, tranquillawyer.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you guys.
You too, Alex.
Okay. Take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.